I all the time felt the pressure of being the good girl.
And I would say, oh, you don't love me enough, or you don't know how to show love.
For them, it was shameful that I was doing that business.
By manipulating me in that state of guilt or, being a good daughter, he would get what he wants.
And we never had this really genuine, friendship.
And then when he starts almost yelling at me, I did this and I said, Dad, I want you to know that I really love you. But I have to remove my presence at the moment because you're not ready for my presence. But I want you to know that I really love you. And I packed my things and I left.
Hi everyone, this is me, Lily Boiko.
And Mira Uniat.
And our podcast, Eternally Fantastic. Thank you for following us, and please also subscribe for our Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, Facebook. You can find us on all platforms. And today our topic would be parents. We actually talked about that yesterday in private conversation with Mira, and she shared a very inspiring story about how her relationship with her father improved significantly lately, and I think I will also share mine. So I'm the only child in my family, and my parents did their best to give me the best education possible. And in Ukraine, not many people speak English, and I learned it at school, which was really good. And but at the same time, so I'm very grateful to them for doing their best and investing in my education. But at the same time, I all the time felt the pressure of being the good girl, that I have to have only highest grades, and if I came with not so high grades, I was told that I'm not performing as I should have been. But if I got the highest grade, it was normal, so they didn't appraise me for that. And because of that, I think I still have this construct of trying to please people, trying to be good in their eyes, and I'm now trying to change that, not to think of what other people would think of me, or not to feel some guilt about that. And also when I already started working, as I told in our life, I never worked for someone. And I always had an online business, which my parents didn't understand at all, though they are also business people. But this online sphere for them looked at something unreliable, and they always wanted me to change what I'm doing and never supported me in that. Though I was making good money and I was making gifts for them, but I felt that I was never enough, as well as at school, never enough good for them, and also in my adult life, I wasn't in their eyes doing what I was supposed to do. And I think they came from, of course, they wanted the best future for me, and I think that was the way for them to, they were worried about me, that I won't make it for life from that online business that I had. And also, but I think the main thing why they were concerned about that, and that's the main thing that makes me gets me crazy, is that they
triggers you.
Right. Yes, that I started from MLM business, multi-level marketing, network marketing, when I was 20, I think, and I was one of the leaders of the company and very successful, but they never came to my conferences where I was presenting to the whole team, and all people who came there were telling that I'm doing really good, but my parents didn't see that, and I really wanted them to come there to my
Perform a presentation.
presentations, but they never did. And because I think that for them it was shameful that I was doing that business, because when, for example, our relatives called and asked them how I'm doing, they couldn't tell what I was doing because they were actually ashamed of that, I think. And for them it would be more prestigious if I worked, for example, in a bank, like my education, economics. I finished economics, and then I became a blogger, which again was something they didn't understand, and again it was like shameful to tell people that what I'm doing is not serious. And only when I started my social media marketing agency, digital marketing, and I became one of the leading experts in Ukraine, and Ukrainian national TV channels were inviting me to their programs like an expert in digital marketing. And only when they began seeing me on TV, which is like cool, and then when our relatives started calling them and telling that they saw me on a national channel, only then they agreed with what I was doing and began not supporting, but at least not telling that I have to change my life and clean my head and begin doing something right at last. So as I started, I'm very grateful for how they raised me concerning the knowledge that I got, the English language that I got, and my education, but I still can't fully accept, I'm still looking for that love, unconditional love, right? That I think I didn't get in my childhood, for just being who I am without any circumstantial conditions as who I had to, which grades I had to have, or which work I had to do. So I know your story is also much more hard, or maybe because relationships with my parents were just calm, and when I gave birth to my son, we started talking more about my son when we talk on the phone, not about me, and it became easier to talk. But because we never had this pure connection, our conversations are mostly about weather, politics, my son, and we never had this really genuine friendship, or how to say. And I'm not sure if we still can have that, or I can't change them anyways and just let it go and be as it is.
So what's your question?
How to improve, I guess, relationships with parents, and if we can change them, or
change your parents?
Well, based on what you shared yesterday about your dad, I see it as he changed a lot. So please share how you did it and what's your story. I think it would be very interesting for people to hear.
Definitely. So I'm not saying that my dad changed a lot, but the dynamics of our relationship changed, and the way he talks to me and the way he perceives me. So his perception of myself is proportional, the change of his perception of me is proportionally equal to the level of change that happened in perception of myself, the way I perceive myself. Because what is awakening and what is this inner work that we're all doing is all about, it's about changing your perception of yourself. And my perception of myself changed so much in the last 3 years. The way I perceive my body, the way I perceive my mind, the way I perceive myself as a being, you know. Like I would say that I am not even identified with my physical or mental self. I am more dwelling in an awareness of it, especially when I am by myself. And of course, those changes that happened within me, they, in external environment, including people in my life, like it would be dragging them on the similar path of change in terms of the way they are perceiving me. Because the perception that I had before was creating that type of thought and perception of these people, which created that type of thoughts about them. And this type of thoughts would create these actions towards them. So for example, if I am in resistance to the way my father is, I would try to change him or tell him what's wrong with him. And I would say, oh, you don't love me enough, or you don't know how to show love. But in reality, I would be just talking about myself, that I don't know how to show love and I don't love myself enough. So I would be telling what he needs to work on based on the fact that I haven't done that type of work on myself. So once I start doing that inner work and embodying those qualities and manifesting them, those qualities of love and acceptance, and manifested through my actions and shining through them, they will start seeing that, wow, she changed. What is she doing and what happened? Because their perception is now they can't put me into their box, because now I am no longer that, right? And when they talk to me and in situations, when they try to put me into the old box and I don't fit, like they can't understand what's happening. So I'm not predictable anymore. And it can create two scenarios. It's either they will become very scared and resistant to the new version of you, and the connection would disappear, or they become interested in what happened. Can you share? And then it will grow, this relationship will grow and evolve to the whole new level, right? And that's what probably is happening with me and my father, because he's always been very much interested in this depths, you know, in the deeper aspect of who we are, like this existential thoughts and like thinking about life and God and, you know, looking for answers. And of course, working on the pain, right, that he always suppressed within himself in all his years. So now that when I start talking about my pain and what I experienced and how vulnerability and actually acceptance of your pain is actually a healing process. And I think my father has always been struggling with being vulnerable, because he always wanted to be strong and tough, and he always wanted people to follow him and do things the way he wants. And it's actually very common for people who come into this physical world with a lot of information and a lot of data to process. It's almost like they have a conviction that they know everything and they are here to help fix others and help them. But without having awareness of your inner self, you're actually damaging other people. Mm-hmm. You're not applying it to yourself. You are trying to fix somebody instead of starting it from yourself, right? So with spiritual awakening, everything that you do, you actually work on yourself. on your inner state of being, on making sure that you are choosing the state of being that is the most productive frequency for you to have an impact on someone. Because now you have the power to embody that love. Even when people yell at you or they don't understand you, you quietly listen without being triggered, and they can't understand why you're not mirroring them. Because the energy they are sending is, for example, anger, or, they are trying to change you. They want you to behave the way they tell you, and you're just peacefully sitting, and you know that it's coming from their own full resistance to what it is, and they are not aware of it. And because they are not aware of it, you can't help it. You can't help them. But the knowledge like that only comes from your own journey. Because I was in that state of being, and I tried to change people, and I tried to convince, and I tried to tell them how they should be. And I realized that through language, it doesn't work. It only works through you embodying those qualities yourself and being love. Like when I wake up in the morning, I always ask myself, what would love do today? What would love do? Not what would anger would do or what would fear do, but what would love do every moment during the day today? And even why it's actually parents are very important figures in our life is that those are the faces that were there from our first breath in this physical world. And that's when our first unconscious self was created, like the foundation of who we are, like that material from which we can either blossom, like into a beautiful lotus flower, or we can go down in the spiral, sucked in back onto that foundation and just repeat the same cycle, or be a copy of the previous generation, right? So I personally choose to use it as a beautiful manure from which I blossom. And how to achieve that is actually to learn that foundation. And parents are always reminding us of our old self. So when I talk to my father right now, it has nothing to do with him. I am remembering my old self that now I'm dragging into the future. He is an inspiration for me to kind of not to change my past, but continue rewiring my perception, my old perception. Because it's a boundless amount of perceptions that have been wired into us since our birth. And he's just bringing up the areas within me where I'm not completely free. And I realized that our relationship got very much improved right now. Like he is a part of my life vision. He is a part of my project for life. So he catches that signal. So with me, when he talks with me, he changed a lot. He might not have changed in the way he talks to the woman he's with or to other people in his life. I don't know what they feel and what changes they are going through because it's their dance. I'm responsible for my dance with my father. I'm responsible for what energy I am sending him. And my choice is how I can be love in every moment I spend with him, even if that moment requires me to remove my presence. But I will always do that with love within myself. Because sometimes absence of you is more loving than presence.
Yeah, I get that because you told this story of how he changed yesterday, but I think it would be very useful for people to hear that if you can share, because it's really powerful, like exactly what happened and on that Easter holiday.
Yes. So my father has a very strong personality. Well, I guess I should change my language because I should say that I perceive him as someone who has a strong personality. So it's just my perception, right? And I feel like I'm like that too. And when I was born, so he has 3 kids from my mom, right? Like my mom died when I was 6 years old. And in this marriage, he has 3 of us, right? and he was married a few times, and he has 6 kids from all the marriages. But yeah, like from my mom, he has 3 of us. And I'm the youngest daughter. And every time, like when I was born, because look-wise and even like body-wise, like he used to be very fit. Like genetics and like the way his body is just a perfect sculpture, you know. When I look at his pictures from young years, like it's just perfect. And at that time they didn't even have the access to information how to work on the body like that.
Yeah, and it wasn't that much fitness culture at that time. Nothing.
No supplements, no, like nothing. So it's just very impressive for me to see, you know, that in the 60s and in the 70s he could do that with his body, you know, like a perfect sculpture. And now I look at myself, you know, we have so much in common, because from my young years, I always was so focused on improving my body. Well, first and foremost, it was coming from me not being happy the way my body was, my perception, right? So I was constantly working on my physical vessel. Like every morning I would do my morning exercises. And sometimes we would do even with my father. So he started that culture in my family to do morning exercises. My sister is into fitness, into sports. Like we are all almost like took it after him. So there are so many beautiful, amazing aspects that I inherited from him, and I'm very grateful for them. But when it comes to relationships aspect, you know, I feel like he's always been looking for love. And that absence of love within himself is coming from his own childhood traumas that he hasn't processed, and the way his parents treated him, right? And like that created his constant search for love in external environment, right? And not being able, you know, in Soviet Union and in that culture, like nobody really meditated or did inner work, right? It was always like just this busy life on, you know, whoever was working, like career and being better than someone, going up the ladder in a career, from starting from a regular worker, let's say. Like I'm not talking about my father in general, but everybody had aspiration to go to the top, you know, competing.
Everything external development instead of internal.
Yes, it was all outward bound, right? So my father came with a very strong intention into his life, but just the circumstances where he was born and the time, political situation, like all these external factors, I feel like really suppressed his huge intention to help people into a little like energy ball within himself. That memory is still there, and the memory that he wants to help people and be impactful in the world. But the external circumstances he was born with didn't provide him the right tools to manifest that intention. And I see his pain. So that's why I feel like now when I found this passion for life and what I want to do in life, and I shared this with him, like the tools that I am suggesting and like what worked for me, he resonates with it. But because he wasn't exposed to this in his young years, he lived all his life in this suppression state, right? And of course, it was manifested through the fact that he was looking for love through women and relationships, of course, and, you know, then having 6 children, you know, and he, I think only now starts realizing that it's actually his inner world. It has to do with his inner world. And so before my awakening, we were like almost like trying to change each other. He tried to change me, and of course, because I had a strong personality, I would push back and try to change him, right? But in reality, we were just a mirror to each other at that time. We were a mirror to each other, 2 strong type A personalities, even body-wise. Like we were a mirror to each other. He is working on his body. I'm always working on my body, and like, you know,
is he still working out?
He does his morning exercise. For him, it's a routine. Like I remember even he was always paying attention to the way his heartbeat is, and he would make us work in the garden. It was plus 30 outside, and he would make us go and work do tough, difficult physical work in the garden. And he would tell us, but for me, it's an afternoon nap. Like, you go work on the garden, but my body needs some rest right now. And at that time, I was like, this is not fair. Like, how come he's going to nap and sends us to work in the garden?
Like slaves.
So I grew up in this environment where I never felt love, you know. But now I realize, actually, it was amazing because he could afford to do that to himself. Instead of being a perfect father, he chose that reconnecting with his body moment, right? But what started in me is that I never felt loved. Mm-hmm. And I was always looking for love. And through either studying well at school or getting good grades or writing poetry, he actually inspired me to publish my first book of poetry. He always was inspiring me to be creative in that aspect. Like for poetry, he was always almost pushing me. Like sometimes I was like, Dad, like I don't really care about the books. Like I just write poetry because I love it. You know, I don't care about being popular or like publishing books. It's like, no, you need to have a book. So he almost made me to publish my first book because he loved my poetry. And now he keeps asking when you're going to have the third book. I was like, for me, it's not a priority. But anyways, like we had the dynamics of where he wanted to change me and I wanted to change him. And it created a lot of conflicts and misunderstandings. And there were times when we didn't even talk for months. I think there was a time when we didn't talk for a year.
Wow. After your awakening?
Yeah, after my awakening, when I couldn't fit into his old perception of me and he couldn't understand what was happening and what I was saying, and I started acting differently. Like I would never be a good girl, a good daughter, and do everything he tells me to do. I would start doing what I think would help him to rewire his brain. Mm-hmm. So it was coming from love, but now I was no longer playing the role of an obedient good daughter who would be afraid of him being upset with me because I wanted him to love me. So I wanted him to love, and in my past, because I wanted him to love me, I always tried to be a good daughter. And if he asks something, to do everything he's asking for. If he asks to send this amount of money, I would do that. And I would not care that he calls me just for money, you know. Like, I would just do because I wanted to be a good daughter, good, obedient daughter. With a spiritual awakening, when it happened, like the identity of a good daughter just dropped. Now, I just wanted to help people to find their truth within. Because that's what happened with me. Like I found out this source of unlimited happiness, a source of unlimited love within myself. And now it was my wish and my blessing to experience the same. And the first person that I wanted to have that feeling was the man that who was the catalyst of my awakening, and who is the catalyst. Like, I mean, like he had a profound impact. And my father. So these two figures, these two men in my life were the first two people that I wanted to experience this love and joy within themselves. So I started doing things that I've never done in both spheres, in both relationships. And of course, the man I was in love with, like he was scared and like, what is she doing? She's weird. And
we already shot an episode about that, and you'll see it soon.
And what happened with my dynamics with my father is that he was angry at the beginning because in his understanding, I stopped being an obedient daughter and good daughter. I was almost like an enemy because I no longer did what he told me to do, which means he started seeing he losing control over me. Mm-hmm. And because he always wanted, like he felt this power within himself to change people, and he wanted people to follow him, like this deep intention within him, it's always there. Even now it's always there, but it's now our intentions are one intention. I always say to him now that we have one soul split into two bodies, and that's how I feel our connection right now. But if you are in a competitive mindset, you can't really see that, right? So he would start seeing me as a competition. Like she is, but he can't see, he wouldn't have control over me anymore. And I was unpredictable. So now when he would tell me to do something and I would not do that, and I wouldn't be triggered, I wouldn't do that not because for example, I'm angry with him, right? I would do that because I have an intention for him to find love within himself. And I didn't want to support his old perception of me. I wanted him to rewire his brain so that he could perceive me differently. And the beginning of that process was rough. That's when we didn't talk for a year. Because anything I would say, it would create a lot of resistance in him. So the turning point was this Easter, when all of us were coming together from different parts of the world. I mean, my oldest sister from Germany, and then me and my middle sister from Canada. And the plan was to bring all together the whole family for Easter, like with the kids and all that. And everybody was so excited for this family event, because we didn't see each other for a long time. And I came on Thursday that week before Easter, and Marina, my middle sister, was supposed to come on Saturday, and then me and my oldest sister, we came on Thursday to my father's place, to the place where I grew up. And I every time when I come to that place and I see where I'm coming from and where I am in terms of feelings and vibrations I have within myself, wow, like I get so proud of myself that it's been quite a journey. Like I've grown so much as a being and evolved so much. It makes me fall in love with my life I am right now,
Because you're from a small village.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I'm from a small village, and where it was how you call it, like a lot of physical work that we had to do to have a family budget. I mean, we were selling vegetables on the market in Kiev to have our family money, basically. So from the age of 10, me and my sisters, we were making money for the whole family, right? But it was my father's idea.
Very entrepreneurial.
So I'm very grateful for that, because I feel like I was an adult, from the responsible adult from young age, and my father never treated us as kids. He always treated us as adults. And of course, it traumatized us a bit as kids, because that created this perception that we are not loved enough, right? That we don't have, we're not good enough to be loved, right? That we always had to work hard and make more money and be more driven and be more successful so that we feel love, right? So that's the wiring, the default wiring I was in before my awakening. Anyways, so we all came. I came with my sister on Thursday, and then I started seeing that my father wasn't in a good mood. Like that Thursday evening, he would be like, just not shining, like I know how his moods are. But now, like if before I would be thinking, what have I done wrong because he's in a bad mood? Like, as a child, we always want to feel love. So we were like, what have I done wrong? Like, I want to be a good daughter. And now I start seeing like it's no longer that feeling for me. Like, wow, Mira, you don't see a father as a father. You see him as a soul that's now experiencing this frequency. So that's a powerful change, right?
Just observing him as as a human.
Yes, and it was like, well, it has nothing to do with me because I'm glowing. I'm eternally fantastic. But that's the frequency he is in right now. And actually, it even created this excitement within me to see how I can apply, all this knowledge I have, of awareness of myself that I have. And if he will be able to bring me back into my old self. Like within me, there was this almost excitement to test, a challenge to test how much I've changed. Will I default to my old reactions? Will I default to my old responses? Or I will be loved? Yeah, so it was really a test for me to see if I am able to apply all the knowledge and self-awareness of my states of being in the environment where I grew up and in interactions with my father, where I can apply my level of self-awareness and produce a different reaction and have a different talk track with him based on my enhanced perception. So when I came there, the first day he was moody, like he was not in a good mood, he was grouchy. And the next day I woke up and he came to my room and started telling me, how disappointed he is with his children and that his children are not listening to him and his children are not living the life he wants them to live, and he is just disappointed with the way his kids are. And then he started saying how disappointed he was with me, that I am not good enough, I am not doing what he's telling me to do. And like I said, it was very much related to, if he's asking me for more money, I used to send all the time when he asked, I used to send it. But then I wanted him to be more loving and then reward him for this type of state of being. When he is loving and all that, I'll give everything that I have, But if a person is not happy and if a person is telling me that he is disappointed with me, this is not inspiring me to give, right? And to give him what he's asking, right? Because that will create the wiring in him that it's okay to be angry with people, it's okay to yell at people and call them names because he's still getting what he wants. And that the patterns that probably worked for him in the past, maybe in his relationships, that's what he felt was an efficient model of behavior, because everybody at the end was doing what he was asking them to, or telling them to do. And probably first time in all of his experience, he now is dealing with me where he's telling me all this and I am not triggered, because all I see is his pain talking to me, his unprocessed pain and his inability to see that it's actually his state of being and it has nothing to do with me. He is perceiving me right now at this moment based on his mood and state of being. And his logic, his mind is finding a reason for the way he feels in me. So he is almost interpreting the reality based on the fact that I am the one who is creating that state of being in him, right? My awareness like that, because I used to be like that, like I would blame people for the way I feel before my awakening, right? And now I know that it's just unconscious in people. Like they are not conscious of their state of being. They're not conscious that they are in a bad mood. That's why they are perceiving this person this way. So I'm listening like that. I'm not triggered at all. And then when he starts almost like yelling at me, I did this and I said, Dad, I want you to know that I really love you. But I have to remove my presence at the moment because you're not ready for my presence. But I want you to know that I really love you. And I packed my things and I left.
Did he react on that?
He was shocked. He was shocked because I've never done that before.
Did he say something?
Well, he was angry because first I didn't do what he told me to do. And moreover, I left without his permission. So that's also the thing, is that parents are usually wired in a way where they perceive their children as robots and their children have to do what they tell them to do because they haven't made peace with the fact that their kids are grown up already. So they still perceive them as their kids, but they are an independent human being that's on the journey to explore life. And I think a lot of parents are really struggling to change the perception of their kids that way. And that resistance to change is hurting the parents. But I also think it goes both sides, because the children are struggling to perceive their parents in a different way as well. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like every time when we come to the place where I grew up and we talk to our parents, we almost go back into our past. And I'm very proud of myself that I never go back into my past anymore. I constantly create my new future now, because I'm very aware of my past. I explored every state of being that used to be a part of me that I had before. And moreover, now I converted all that old frequency of fear or anger or resistance or, whatever I felt as a child, right? All of that I have converted into love now. And now I'm able to see my father with love, even when he was yelling at me. So I did that, and it was on Friday before Easter. My sisters were convincing me to stay because it's a family gathering. And I said that at this moment, it will be more loving to leave than to stay. From my perspective, because I am always love. I'm not living because I'm in pain or I'm angry at him. And I'm avoiding my anger. So I'm running away from my anger. This was not the case. Mm-hmm. I have an intention to help him change the perception of me, which is love. Like, I want him to experience this freedom and find out the tools within himself to see me differently. So my absence was more loving than my presence in that case. So I explained that, and I said, yeah, it's time for me to go. And I started looking for flights to come back to Vancouver. And some of them were, like all of them actually, were ridiculously expensive. And I was like, maybe on my way I should stop by somewhere in the Caribbean. And I found the flight, Warsaw Punta Cana in Dominican Republic, 89 euros.
A transatlantic flight from Poland to South America, right?
Yes. And that was just the sign. The external environment is reflecting to me my frequency of love. Because if I was angry and I was running away, I would probably want to get to my comfort zone in my home in Vancouver, mm-hmm. right? To feel safe and feel like, it's all good, Mira, right? But because I was in a state of love, like I was doing it because I had intention to share something with my father, to share a new perspective. And my frequency of love at that moment attracted a ticket of 89 euros. Because if I was in a different state of being, I would probably pay 2,500 to go back to Vancouver, mm-hmm. and be in my comfort zone. But now my comfort zone is everywhere. I carry it with me anywhere I go. That's how you expand, how you evolve. And it's my wish and my blessing for every human being to live life like that. To realize that the only home they have is their body. That's the only home for me for now. And I carry it anywhere I go.
Not to get attached to things and places.
There you go, yes. And mind you, then I'm in Punta Cana, on the beach, chilling.
On Easter.
On Easter. And my sister calls me. And she's like, what did you do with our father? I'm like, well, I started some profound processes in him. She's like, I've never seen him so quiet and peaceful. Like he's like in this very deep thoughts process. Like he was very thoughtful. I was like, that's amazing. That's exactly what I wanted. To help him reflect that my anger, now the correlation, the wiring, instead of seeing that the anger works to get what he wants, now he sees that by anger he pushes people he loves away. And how can I avoid pushing people away? To change my anger. And after that, we didn't talk with him for a while, and certain processes in him happened. And I knew that I needed to give him time to work on that. That's why I didn't call. I didn't call because I was angry. No, like I love him. I didn't call him. Actually, I rarely call anyone right now. Like I always receive, like what people want from me, they call me, they find me. because I'm always in that present moment. You know, this moment wouldn't be better if I call someone. It's already perfect. So I didn't call him because I was like, I've never experienced anger since my awakening. My absence from his life for that period of time was done with love. And then I came back to Ukraine in summer for my brother's wedding, and I met him there. And it was a very, very emotional reconnect with him. And he told me, "So are you coming home?" And I said, "Are you inviting me?" And he, of course, and he hugged me. And I had the tears of joy on my face because from him, I've never heard such a genuine invitation.
And
from
so
his
much
heart.
love.
Yes, the way he hugged, the way he invited me, it was just so deep and profound. And then first time in my life, I actually heard him apologizing. That was the beginning of our new relationship with him, which is now blossoming.
Wow, such a magic story. Actually, not magic, all you explained, but I think it will inspire a lot of people. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome, my pleasure.
Yeah, so I think that's where we will be finishing this episode. Subscribe for more. Leave your questions in the comments below and leave reactions if you liked what we talked about. And
leave thumbs up, because reactions, don't be reactive, be proactive, and thumbs up.
Right. Yeah. So see you in the next episode.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.